Alright, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, I'm Canaris, and this is going to be an ending run of NieR Automata.
Everything that lives is designed to end.
Now, NieR Automata is a game that was released in February of last year,
In a
2017,
life and death.
and it's a hack and slash game released by Platinum Games, who also had an original NieR game on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 4.
Puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
We're going to start off with a little, about 4.5 minute section, which is basically just a shoot 'em up. We can lose a little time here, but it's mostly auto-scroller, just waiting for dialogue.
All units have penetrated the stratosphere. Autopilot systems green across the board.
This is Operator 60.
I guess during this time we could do introduction shot of the couch and probably run donations as well.
Understood. Once you reach their anti-air defenses, proceed to manual attack formation. Then destroy the Goliath-class unit by any means.
There are a few different shoot 'em up sections, or we call them shmups, throughout the run, but they're not really representative of the whole gameplay that you'll be seeing.
All units activate manual mode and rely on visuals to evade.
Already engaged. Free movement unlocked.
Origin point of long-range lasers confirmed.
So you might notice all the dialogue on screen and the menus are all in Japanese, and that's because it's actually 4 seconds faster for each load screen if you're in Japanese rather than English. So that saves quite a bit of time throughout the whole run. And there's not too much menuing throughout the run. Most of it's pretty simple.
Requesting permission to engage.
Permission granted.
So what we'll be seeing for the first few minutes here are enemies spawning in waves. They spawn the same way every time, there's no RNG involved. The only slight RNG you might get is the positions of your allies, but even those are based on your position. And you can control them, as I did in that first wave there, pushing them into position to eliminate the enemies at the same time you do.
Multiple surrounding enemy air units confirmed. Requesting permission to assume mobile configuration.
Permission granted.
So now we're in a kind of different perspective from the one we were in before. It's like a top-down version where we can swing our sword around, and it's more like a dual-stick shooter, really.
Captain, I think
4B down.
Also, one other thing that I'm doing here is deliberately getting hit so that I can use up my recoveries.
2B to operator 60.
We start off with a set number at the start of the game,
The operation is compromised.
and we want to use up all of the large and medium recoveries. We want to leave some small just in case, but we use up the large and medium so that when we go into our shortcut menu later on in a boss fight to buff up, it takes less inputs to get to the buff item that we want to use. So just a short optimization there. Now this run's changed a lot since Half Coordinated ran it last year at SGDQ. I believe his estimate for that one was like a 140 or 142. The estimate I would be submitting for this one is probably about 130 real time. So the time has dropped quite a bit, and actually the combat in particular is quite different from how it used to be. Not in this first section here, necessarily, but past the first about 20 minutes of the run, then it really gets serious. But yeah, the combat's a lot more complicated than it used to be. We've also got a fair few number of skips that are new. Sometimes skipping whole sections that were pretty much glitchless in the last run. Like the factory section, a lot of new stuff in there. Desert as well.
Negative. This enemy is unrelated. Proposal. Dispatch.
So this is our first boss. The combat itself is a little tough to explain, there's a lot going on at once. For this boss, I'm just trying to get it to trigger the dialogue at a certain health threshold as soon as possible, so that we can move on. But in general in combat, you'll see me doing this move here, where she throws out the spinning sword, and that's called a damage glitch. It's basically a normal attack, but we dash, and then do the normal attack during the middle of a dash, and that amplifies the damage by 5 times. And that's basically the core of the combat for the run. It's incredibly powerful. And we use a better version of it later on called double damage glitch. Because this one gives 5 times damage and we use a double on it, it throws out 2 spinning swords. So it's technically about 10 times the normal damage you'd be doing in a casual playthrough. So you can imagine most of the bosses melt pretty quickly like that.
Nothing's ever easy.
We also have a laser now, so we're going to be using that, trying to line up a few enemies here and take them out at once. That went a lot better than it usually does, I gotta say. World record prologue hype. So this is a really infamous skip. Got it first try, thankfully. It's called bridge skip. A really precise sequence of inputs there to get enough height. I bet the devs never imagined that anyone would be able to go over that bridge, but you can do it. And we're still out of bounds here. Basically just breezing through the prologue.
Alert. Bulletproof apparatus detected on enemies. Close range combat is advised.
I know.
Something I'm also doing here is mashing my flashlight to taunt the enemies. If you flash it at them enough, they go into a taunted state where they take and deal 1.5 times the damage, and we also abuse that a lot in the combat throughout the run. It's a bit risky, but once you get used to it, you're pretty much fine. Most of the time we're just mashing recoveries to stay at full health, while killing everything pretty much instantly.
I surveyed the entire factory, but
But
couldn't find anything resembling
the combat is
target.
definitely not easy. There's a lot of inputs going on if you want to be optimal with it. So, this is the end of the first prologue section, and it's gone pretty well for me.
There should be another facility across that bridge. It's a bit of a hike.
We're gonna fight a mini boss here and then enter
It's not
big
like
boss
down here
fight,
to
which
get a
takes up
location wrong.
a large chunk of the
I guess
prologue.
even they get bad intel from time to time.
This boss has a bit of nasty RNG.
I wouldn't
Nothing we
bet
can
on that.
control. You can lose 23 seconds just because of RNG. Nothing you can do about it.
Power jamming detected. No response from long-range communications.
Doesn't matter. I'll just take him out.
This one actually dies when you get it to half health, which is great, because we can just do that in time if we try hard enough. Great. And the second one here is supposed to come in and do some wacky stuff, but no, it's dead. So this is Engels. Say hi, Engels. This is the boss of the prologue. This first phase doesn't matter much. He can do whatever he wants and it's just completely timed. It's basically synced up with the music, and we just have to wait around. Dealing damage here is good, but it's not completely necessary. Depending on how much you deal later on. Something else I'll show off here is something called pod slow-mo. The laser I used earlier is a pod program, and we can hold that down to charge it up to get a big laser like this. When you collect multiple pods, it turns into a double or triple laser. And when you hold that down, time actually slows by 50%. So you can imagine that's pretty powerful for combat. I'll just show you just how much he slows down here. He is incredibly slow. And I don't believe this was abused much in Half's run, because it was pretty new tech back then and people were pretty scared of it as well. Kind of difficult.
What's your status?
This
Nice.
is the target. I'm going to destroy.
So this second phase is completely RNG. He gave us really good RNG here. Pretty much the best possible. If he gives you a melee combo there, like I said, it was your 23-second, and it's pretty rough. Lots of resets happen here. But now we just wait for him to go through his animations, and we'll be moving on. Donations here are probably possible. No punches, puggers. Let's hope for no punches in a marathon run. I might just show off some of the crazy movement 2B has as well. The aerial movement in this game is absolutely bonkers. You can do so much stuff.
Hacking in.
Nine S black box signal detected. No response to communicate.
And you'll notice most of the movement on flat ground in this game is going to be through chaining dashes together. There's a bit of a mean stubby there. And that is faster than sprinting because sprinting has a charge up time. It takes about 3 seconds to get to max speed when you're sprinting, and we can't afford that. Okay, that went really well. Those particular enemies we call the ninjas because they always dodge out of the way of the laser. But they just all stood there and cocked it. That was amazing. This is actually turning out to be a really good prologue. But you'll be seeing a lot more of the crazy aerial movement we have access to throughout the rest of the run.
Talk? I didn't know the machines had that
You
kind
can
of
see we're back in a
intelligence.
shmup. This one's only about 2 minutes long, maybe a bit less.
I found a weakness in the
We've just got to
target.
wait for dialogue here.
Hacking in.
And this is another small chunk of RNG. You can probably lose about 10 seconds here if you're really unlucky, but it's nowhere near as bad as the other one.
2B. The control.
There's a line coming up where 2B says, "I told you to shut up,"
Use your pod.
and we want him to end an
Take
attack
it over.
just as that line finishes. So, okay, we got pretty bad RNG. He started an attack right before it finished, so we have to wait. Then we have a scripted punch, and we're continuing, and it's almost the end of the prologue.
Control. Upper arm. Seized from enemy unit. Marking weak point.
Engel, sadly, is gonna go bye-bye.
See this control system.
But I'm sure it's not the last time we'll see him.
Infiltrating enemy subunit. Behavior table adjusted. Balance controls overridden. Enemy unit subjugation complete.
Ooh. I have never gotten hit there before. I've actually never seen anyone get hit there. It's interesting. Okay, so now that prologue's over, we're back in the bunker. This is going to be like our headquarters for the storyline, or at least it should be, but we only come back here one more time after this, I think.
50, 12.
So in this part, it's probably not obvious what's happening if you haven't played the game, but 9S is basically setting us back up because we're an Android. We're just going through all our settings, making sure everything's okay.
Morning.
And here he is creeping in on us.
Look at that. Oh.
Nice.
Huh? Oh, but wait.
Okay, let's go 9S.
You need to be near an access point to save your data. You can see access points on the close range map. Be sure to save often.
Yeah, I need to eat so.
The surface? That means we'll be getting flight units, huh? Better head for the hangar.
So you can also see, for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to be dashing and then punching between every dash. It's ever so slightly faster than dashing. I think it's about 5% quicker. But we need to save them frames. And another short shmup. I swear this one will be the last one for a while.
If all they want is intel, we scanner models are built for that kind of thing.
Orders are orders.
Alright, alright.
It's the same thing as the other one, just taking out the waves as quickly as possible. They spawn in the same positions every time, so
You're going to have some new
pretty
weaponry
consistent.
installed from here on out. I'll put up instructions for you. Make sure to commit them.
Now though, we have a pod program, which we didn't have in the very first shmup. And you'll be seeing it here shortly. I did use it at the start there. Here it is. Takes out that one instantly. These guys we call the fidget spinners. You'll be able to see why later. Well, hopefully not, but maybe. We're unlucky.
You'll be touching down quite a ways from the resistance camp, unfortunately. Sorry for the trouble, but we can't risk the enemy discovering their position.
Understood.
Good luck down there.
Okay. So in a few minutes from now, the run will really start ramping up. First 18 minutes or so are usually pretty
Target location
basic.
Marking on map. Proposal. Proceed to target location.
According to our intel, none of the machines in this area are hostile. We've been seeing more and more enemies like this lately. They just stand there and stare.
So actually a lot of the time spent in the run is just optimizing your movement as much as possible. That involves cutting corners, and trying to find the quickest way over the obstacles. Because we do take a lot of shortcuts in the run, because of our crazy aerial movement.
So this is the resistance camp, huh? We should probably go talk to their leader first thing.
So this is the leader of the resistance camp, Anemone. Just gonna say hi, then bye. We've got 2 fetch quests to do here. Shouldn't take too long if we're lucky.
Marking on map.
And they are mandatory, unfortunately.
This must have been quite a city once upon a time. Too bad vegetation's claimed most of it now.
Operator 60 to 2B. It is time for your regularly scheduled contact.
This is 2B. Nothing to report.
Good to hear. Say, how's the weather on Earth today? Good?
It's fine. Does that question have anything to do with our operation?
Not really. I just figured it might feel nice to have some good weather.
That should be enough. Let's get these back to the trader. plant life has claimed most of the central area. Big plants, too.
Report. Records show that vegetation has grown to an abnormal size since the departure of humans.
Wonder if there are any huge boars and such, too.
So 3 drops here. Okay, we got pretty lucky.
Okay, that's everything the supply trader asked for.
This is pretty good pace so far, I think.
Man, these
I do have my
chores are a real
splits
pain
hidden.
in the butt, huh?
The resistance
It'd
is
be
a valuable ally to
bloody
your
crazy
help.
if we
By
world
helping
recorded
them,
on
we also help ourselves.
submission run.
So no, I don't think they're a pain.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're just gonna turn in those quests now and speak to this lady because we have to. So now we'll be able to upgrade our sword, the Virtuous Contract, to level 2. That is what is happening here. And with that upgrade, we get a huge damage bonus, which is great. But we also get an attack speed bonus on this particular weapon when it upgrades. And because of that, we gain access to some clips throughout the run that wouldn't work with a lower attack speed. And we can also dash swing, which is the main horizontal movement we'll be doing from now on. Instead of dash punching, it's dash swinging. So this one uses a sword attack instead of a punch. And it's again, well, probably only 2% faster than the dash punching. But I don't think we've tested it much. It's definitely a lot easier. We are going to be going straight to the desert here, which is where our next objective is. Sometimes when enemies come onto your screen, it's a little bit annoying because when you do the swing component of the dash swing, that's actually an attack. So it'll auto-lock onto the enemies and swing you towards them. We try to look away from the enemies if we can. Away from their ugly faces. Okay, so a lot's going on here actually. I should probably explain. I just purchased a few things that we need. Recoveries, for safety, buffs, which are very important for dealing a lot of damage, and getting some quick cycles as well.
General idea is good enough.
I also bought some animal bait for later so that we can ride animals, and a chip that I'll be explaining later as well, that we can equip. So, in addition to buying a bunch of stuff, I also activated a transporter, and that's a save point that we can even access all the way out here. Usually they're pretty close range, but you'll notice in the top right sometimes there will be a saving available indicator, and we'll be abusing that a bit later when we're coming back from the desert. And you'll be seeing a lot of out of bounds too from now on. They aren't really easy out of bounds though, they're actually pretty tough. The places that you can stand out of bounds, very limited. Okay, so basic movement here. We're going to be picking up Pod C. This is a new little friend for us. This is just like the pod I have already that does the Gatling fire, except this one does missile fire. Doesn't work when no enemies are around. Oh, never mind, it does.
We've got enemies approaching.
That is the missile pod. And we don't actually use the missiles on it. We utilize it for a double laser technique. Sometimes triple laser. Because we can pod program and then swap pods and program again. And that means we get double the lasers. But there is a special trick we can do to get triple lasers actually, with just 2 pods. And depending on how the next boss fight goes, we might see that. So just sliding along the wall, no big deal.
It's heading for that rocky area.
Oh, I forgot to mention the game is super broken, by the way. And definitely, apparently a lot more broken than the last time it was run in a marathon.
It is the ruin of a former human residential area. Large numbers of humans resided in such concrete.
So in Half Coordinated's run, he just went straight through the apartment complex here. We're going to be skipping all of that. This Out of Bounds is probably one of the toughest in the run. I wouldn't call it the toughest, that's probably Factory. But this one, you definitely have to be careful. There are a few ways to lose a lot of time. Okay, so we just skipped basically all of the apartment complex, and now we're here.
What is this?
Saves about 40 seconds. I'm buffing up, swapping weapon sets, and this is a preparation for double damage glitch, which I'm gonna show off now in this long fight segment. So we have the original damage glitch, which is where you do an attack while dashing, one particular attack, and that's the spinning sword. But we can actually throw out a spinning sword, swap weapon sets to a weapon set that's identical to the first one, and throw out another spinning sword. And we can just keep doing that forever. You can only have two at once, because if you damage glitch again with the same weapon set, the sword returns. But it's incredibly powerful, and we can actually mix that together with slow-mo. It's a lot of inputs together with taunting, but it's incredibly powerful. Slows the enemies down a bunch, gives a lot of damage, and you mow through these crowds. If I could stop getting hit though, that would be great. I'm also gonna self-destruct here. Something I haven't really spoken about a lot is self-destruct. It's actually very important to the run. Not just the full self-destruct explosion, but we utilize the input in a lot of ways. We can use it to gain height, stop fall damage. I don't know what I'm doing here. This boss is a little finicky. We try to get a few phase skips on him, but sometimes he doesn't cooperate.
I think he's evolving. We better finish this.
Cool. Okay, so here's the double laser that we wanted. And he will just come straight down from there. Casually, he stays up there a long time, but if you deal enough damage to him quickly enough, he comes right down. And you can see his health bar is just melting.
Come on, through that hole.
Alright, so we've got some movement here, we can finesse a bit. I see a lot of people not doing great with this.
What the hell just happened?
I know.
Some movement areas in this game are a bit finicky.
We better report this to command.
The terrain can be a bit wonky at times, but in general it feels pretty damn good. So, here's a skip that needs a bit of explaining. You remember how I got that transporter before? That was just unlocking the transporter. And whoops, it's a bit of a mistake. It allows me to save from quite a while away, and if you look down the bottom right on the minimap, you can actually see the white circle. Within that circle, you're able to save to a transporter. And so what we do here is clip out of bounds to avoid dialogue, because when you're in dialogue, you cannot quick save from the menu. So we avoid the dialogue, get in range, quick save, and then instantly load. And that saves our progress and puts us right back at the transporter. Saves a lot of time. So now we're back here. Hopefully that one made sense.
Maybe we
No.
Roger.
I remember when we first found that skip, it was so confusing. Took me ages to understand it.
Data upload complete.
Roger.
I also have an incoming message from the commander. Initiating playback.
Alright.
2B, 9S. We've lost contact with several Yorha units that were on their way to the surface. Their black
I should probably also mention you can hear a lot of my controller right now, and that's because I use a very sensitive mic. But in a marathon setting you probably would use a dynamic on a headset or something. So it shouldn't be much of a worry.
Resistance camp.
Target location confirmed. I'm worried about the other agents.
Alright.
We should probably check. Looks like our surface
Got some
route's been
swag
cut off.
here.
Maybe we can get
Never
through
mind.
underground.
I'm the
So
anti-swag master.
Those machines out in the desert look just like androids, right?
Right.
But we androids were modeled after our human creators. So why would machines try to look like us?
There's no point trying to work out unsolvable problems.
I suppose.
So this is a lot of people's favorite area. Alongside the favorite boss. Generally a fan favorite. Oops.
What are those?
So we're jumping over triggers left, right and center really. Skipping a bunch of stuff. You can't see it, but we are skipping it.
This is weird.
And this is one of the more complicated and probably impressive skips to witness. Just gonna jump on top of this building, clip out hopefully. There we go. Jump across this chasm. There is a lot of not floor here, so we need to be very careful. Where am I? It's a good question. Okay. There's also a mandatory progress trigger there we need to hit in the corner, which is why I zigzagged a bit.
Leave that tank behind?
If they aren't
Now that we have the dialogue here on the stairs, we know we got it. We just skipped 30 seconds maybe
What's this?
of the intended path.
It is a device that propels humans on rails at high speeds for the purposes of
Alright. We are on our way on a pretty good pace.
roller coaster.
Humans sure are strange creatures.
Now this roller coaster is completely auto-scroller, nothing we can do. We can actually slow it down if we wanted to, but that's really not helpful at all.
People who know me well usually call me Nines.
Because the way pod slow-mo works is it slows basically anything except for us and our allies by 50%.
You wanna call me Nines?
And that includes environmental stuff, like the roller coaster.
Oh,
It's a very versatile tool, but often we don't want to slow environmental stuff down. Here we're just trying to get as much experience as possible. By the end of the run we're aiming for about level 20 if we can, otherwise it's usually level 19. But it requires a fair bit of experience, and if you get unlucky in some places, you just don't get level 20 at all.
Alert. Multiple.
Alright, so this is everyone's favorite boss. This is Beauvoir, or Simone. And she'll be molting very quickly, unfortunately.
our records don't say anything about a machine like this.
Hopefully not too quickly, because that's actually not beneficial. She slows down if she dies too quickly. Good. Perfect. So, up she goes back onto the stage. And we have a little hacking segment here. If you haven't played the game, this would be completely new to you. That's the only one we do in A ending, which is the main category for this game by far. In E ending and the further endings we do a lot more of that, but those are much too long for a marathon.
Are we seriously being attacked with dead androids?
Wait, I don't think... 2B! I'm detecting black box signals. They were dead. They've been turned into weapons.
Okay, I gotta admit, this is kinda hard because I think I was on pretty good pace. I'm trying to like focus on the run as well. But I might have lost a bit of time on Adam, and now I'm definitely losing time.
I've almost analyzed the enemy's hacking pattern. I'm going to try to hack it back. Keep it busy. You got it.
Okay. Again, she's just gonna melt. So there she goes. She's doing her little explodey thing. We're gonna kill these just for a little bit of extra experience. And then we're gonna start wailing on her again. I'm gonna self-destruct here. Full self-destruct with the explosion and everything. That'll come into play a bit later, where the time save will be evident. Alright.
So,
What is it?
that machine had some pretty weird things to say, huh? It's almost like it had actual emotion.
The machines don't have feelings. You said that yourself.
Yeah,
Something looks different here. Not quite sure what. It's always bugged me a little bit.
Hostiles!
it might...
Okay, as a side effect of the self-destruct, we're on 1 health. Just gonna use a small recovery. And there's a good reason for using a small. I'll explain that in a little bit too. Now, it wouldn't bug me so much if I was just on 1 health, but the fact that you're on 1 health means that you can't input self-destruct at all. And you might have seen there I used self-destruct to gain a little bit more height, because it refreshes a certain move that we use called a heavy attack in midair, and that's the one where we get most of our height from. So refreshing that and being able to use it once more in midair gives us a bit more height. We can also use self-destruct advantageously in a clip up ahead.
Hard to tell what an alien is thinking, you know?
And it's very important for me because I suck at the clip otherwise.
They all have white flags.
Looks like they really don't want to fight.
No, Cecilia, I'm fine. Not knowing how far ahead or behind I am. I'll just run the same way regardless. Okay. Wow, we have a lot of shock cells. Let me just use those up. Sal, please. Okay, so this is a clip that it helps to have self-destruct for. There we go. We don't even need to move the box in INS. What are you talking about? We're gonna grab an animal here. If they're kind to us, please be kind. Stop moving around.
Wrong.
Okay. So many things can go wrong with these animals. It's actually possible to position the animal bait such that they spin around it in a little tribal dance. It is not pleasant in a speedrun. They just get stuck there forever.
You leaving would be bad for me. It would affect
So it's not actually faster to bring the animal here, movement-wise, but we need it for a death warp we're about to pull off. And that's also the reason we're staying on low health here.
Units require the assistance of an operator.
So we're just turning in this quest. And you might think, well, you're dying, aren't you? Isn't that going to reset your progress? No, because we saved at Pascal's village, and when we turned in that quest we actually got a key item. And that key item is required for the second part of this quest. When you die, you go back to the last save point, but you keep all your key items, which is a little bit silly to be honest, but that's how it is, and we make use of that. So saved having to backtrack all the way back here.
What's that noise? Goliath? This was a trap. I knew it.
I promised you.
2B, Command is deploying new flight units for us. They just set the coordinates, so let's get going.
On it.
Okay, so this would be a perfect time for donations as well. There are honestly like so many spots in this run where you could fit in donations or announcements or whatever you want to.
Let's find another route.
Unfortunately, really, I'd love it if it was just all action, but especially the 12-minute auto-scroller in the middle, whew, that's a
The
doozy.
flight units should be on the roof of that building up ahead. It'll be dangerous, but we're not going anywhere unless we pass through that Goliath.
So this place is all familiar, and you might also recognize, hello, an old friend from Prologue. But there are two of those now. Thankfully we only have to fight one because we're amazing. We totally never abide by the game's rules. Okay, so here's where the first fight is supposed to take place, but actually we can just go over this invisible wall that's keeping us here.
2B, display
And now we're technically out of bounds.
Be careful. The skies are packed
Open a
with
flight
anti-air
unit.
weapons. Make sure to approach at low altitude.
Copy that.
Poor old Engels here is just trying his hardest. Sorry. See you another time. And due to the wonky hitboxes of the pod program in flight mode, we actually just used two of them in there, point blank, and all of the projectiles from the spiral thing hit him. That instantly kills him. You have to be in a pretty specific spot though.
Yorha, this is your commander.
This is one of my least favorite segments of movement in the game.
We've intercepted a signal
Mainly
belonging
because
to
it's
the
really
Ancients.
tough.
These are the
Get
creatures
everything
that
right
are in
here.
direct command of the machine life forms on this planet. If we can destroy them, we can end this long and
But it seems to be underground.
Alright, that went pretty
Like,
smoothly.
Way underground.
Guess we'll see once we get there. If we're lucky.
You're not much for plans, are you, 2B?
Okay, in terms of the story, I guess I can give a brief summary of what's happened so far.
Look at all these dead
Well, more
machines.
recently actually.
Seems like they've been here for a long time.
Machines, giant machines, Goliaths in fact, invaded the city,
Nothing like it in a database.
and that was totally unexpected. And then one of them did a little shady thingy, and now there are aliens underground that we just found out about.
2B,
But the aliens are dead,
My name is Adam.
so gotta figure out what's going on here.
Are no longer here. They were wiped out.
And this guy over on the left here, Adam, we don't get to fight him right now.
Wipe down.
We fought him back in the desert. That's him.
We'll wipe
This
out
is his
the
brother
Android.
Eve.
Machines are weapons capable of evolution.
And Eve is going to be dying fairly quickly.
Aware.
Fortunately,
The intelligence within our
you can also see
surpass that
just
of
how
our
much effect slow-mo
You'll
has.
probably be surprised at how quickly it happened.
you destroyed your own creators?
Oh,
His animations are moving so slowly.
They were simple, infantile, almost like plants, I guess you'd say.
Okay, so we kill him once just for this level up here. He provides a significant amount of experience. And then we're going to do a fresh little trick here that definitely wasn't in Half's run.
Are an enigma. They killed uncountable
Doesn't save much time,
numbers of their own kind. And
but
yet
it's more of a
not
convenience thing
nature.
actually.
It's fascinating, don't you think?
Gonna do a very high jump
Possibly
out of
drives
bounds.
this behavior. We have dedicated ourselves
I'm using the
to
minimap here to see
unraveling
exactly
this
where I am.
mystery of humanity. And now we will allow you to
Okay,
assist us.
now we're
You
coming
were
back the way we
made in
came.
their image, after all.
A
Unfortunately, we can't skip the fight by any
We need you
means.
to locate the humans on the moon.
We've tried a lot. It actually
We will
soft-locks you.
then dissect and analyze them in order to drag their secrets forth into the light. Surely you see the
We're going to be killing these enemies here for extra experience, hoping to get that level 20 by the end of the run. Probably not very likely.
This guy's bonkers.
Well, I suppose this concludes negotiation.
And one of the benefits of clearing them out as well is that we get to dash swing through here
Destroy you.
the whole
same
way.
we
You
destroy
might remember that I said the swing component locks onto enemies. If there are no enemies to lock onto, we can just do it carefree. So that's Adam and Eve done. It won't be the last we see of them, actually.
Back this way again? What a pain.
Stop complaining.
Yeah.
2B, this is Operator 6-0. We now have an operational transporter in the city ruins. We're attempting to deploy them at other points as well.
About time we had access to those.
Care to fill me in?
Transporters? They let you transfer your consciousness to a temporary body back in the... Still, their flight...
Alright. So this friendly fellow here is just telling us that we've unlocked a transporter. Or rather, the fast travel, transporting. So we're heading back to the bunker. The last time, I think, in the run. The commander's like, whoa, aliens! What are we gonna do? Keep this a secret. So, we're gonna go investigate some more.
Why don't we rest a little bit, 2B? It's been a while.
I'll rest if I feel like it.
We go back to Pascal's village, because this is where we pick up our next quest. There was something I did there as well, which is called an ally dialogue cancel. You can hold down a particular button to interact with your ally, who is always behind you. And you can change their AI behavior. Like, you can set them to aggressive, passive, long range, short range, that kind of stuff. But if you go into that and then walk into another dialogue trigger, you actually cancel out both dialogues at once. So it's very useful for saving time. In a few places, you can completely skip over some dialogue. Okay, looks like we got pretty lucky with our crit chips here. So, we bought more recoveries, more buffs, sold a bunch of chips for space. Now we're going to equip a few things. This menuing's not going very well. Okay, that's really good. So, I'll explain this skip here. We're just doing a lot of fancy tech to get over a trigger for dialogue. Alright, that went well. Okay, so depending on how many enemies you kill, your chances for getting different offensive chips, which boost your damage, it varies. I didn't think I did that well in the Atom Pit in the desert, but apparently I did. Got a lot of crit chips. Critical up chips in this game are very special. In other games, they amplify your damage by about 200%. In this game, they amplify it by 500%. So they are very powerful, and the more of them you have, the better. And I got a bunch of them, so that's very handy. So you'll be seeing, you might see it here a bit, the glass smashing sound effect, if it ever happens.
Check this guy.
Oh, didn't get a single crit there, surprisingly. When you hear the glass smashing effect, that's a crit. You'll see the health just plummet. That combined with damage glitching, or double damage glitching, plus taunting, plus offensive buffs, is a very quick death of basically everything in a run. And the other chip we equipped there was a resilience chip. That's the one we bought on the way to the desert near the start of the run.
Here they come.
What resilience does is that if we're over a certain health threshold, I think it's 80% for resilience with no upgrades, then we don't stagger when we get hit, and that's incredibly useful. It really is, it's so important. Just makes the fights go much more smoothly.
What is with these guys?
Don't listen to what they're saying, 2B.
Okay.
How are we supposed to
reach that castle? I don't know, Niners. I'm sure we'll find a way. Maybe with a lot of fancy movement tech? This skip here is called Mario Kart skip. It's a little complicated, but basically if you've ever seen time trials of Mario Kart games, they sometimes jump off the course into a new respawn zone, which is not where they're supposed to be. So they go into the respawn zone, they drown or fall off the map or whatever. The game checks where they were when they fell off the map, and they say, oh okay, you were in this area, I'm gonna put you back here. And the runners of those games actually abuse it to move forward quicker in the level than you could just by going along the track. And that's exactly what we did there. We are out of bounds quite a bit there. The devs thankfully left all those windows there for us to climb up. And we did the whole castle in like 30 seconds. So here we are.
"2B, that's an android. A Yorha-type android."
Alert.
This is probably the trickiest fight in the game for me.
Annihilation?
Annihilation?
But why?
But why?
Let's go, 9S.
2B?
This fight...
Bunker to 2B and
There's a lot to say about this fight. Screw this fight, honestly.
What you see in front of you is your enemy.
Okay, went fairly well. Can you leave? Please leave. Thank you. You need to get her to like 40% health.
Let's go after
And she should technically leave after that, but sometimes she just likes to stay a bit longer and hang out. We also just plunged through a trigger for dialogue. About 2 minutes of dialogue actually, so that's a huge skip. A lot of weird movement that looks like we're going out of the way in this run, but it all has a purpose. What just happened?
It'll be faster.
Let's stay sharp and head back to the resistance camp. We should run a check on our consciousness data and resupply.
Okay. So here we are after resistance camp.
9S, why did you ask Pascal about A2?
Huh?
It's not recommended to interface with machines without consulting command.
Thanks, 2B.
Still, machines are the enemy.
And this is
Don't
the
forget.
easiest clip in the game. This one was definitely in half coordinated run. Because I remember he threatened Platinum Games if they were to take the skip out of the game. Good times. Okay, so this is a bit of an improvement on the skips that he used in his run. We're gonna hit this cutscene here. We were out of bounds just before in this high place here, so we come back here because we voided out, which basically means we just fall for a while and the game puts us at our last standing position.
Let's take 'em out already, so
And now we're down here. This is technically another Mario Kart skip.
As long as you perform regular cleaning and maintenance, bathing is unnecessary.
Yeah, but come on, 2B. It still feels good.
Okay, here we have a fidget spinner. Please don't be annoying, sir. Okay, it's fine. That is completely fine. Okay, that actually went kind of well.
I think that's the last of the machines.
That's the last of them. And we just went back into a dialogue trigger that we skipped earlier. There was dialogue playing before the cutscene starts, and we went back into the dialogue trigger, so both dialogues were cancelled, and the cutscene starts immediately. Magic. I love broken games. Now, this is the time you've all been waiting for, or waiting to go to sleep for. I expect there would be a lot of donations during this part. This bit here, we're looking to clear the way as quickly as possible, just like the other shmups. But then, for most of the time after that, we're just kind of hanging out, trying to get as many kills as possible. It's really hard to save or lose time here. Sweet.
Attention, this is Carrier Blue Ridge 2. Requesting support from any friendly units in range. We've come under heavy fire from the enemy. Our escort ship has taken damage and is unable
Typically in runs this is the point where I look at my splits, because I usually hide my splits. Usually look at my splits and go, is it worth sitting through the 15-minute auto-scroller to continue this run? It doesn't have any chance. Alright. So yeah, we're just waiting around here. Nothing we can do to speed this particular bit up. We have a mini-boss here. We can lose time here if we mess up, but it's a pretty simple fight. So this is the Goliath Flyer. Great. Okay, so the whole deal with this section is that our ally is 9S, right? And when we level up, he levels up. His level is strictly tied with our level. But if he gets the last hit on any kills, he can actually steal the experience. So basically the experience is just wasted. He doesn't get anything from it, but he still takes the kills. It's not so bad on the little enemies, which give a negligible amount of experience each. But on the big ones like that Goliath Flyer and some little mini bosses we'll see coming up, it can be very bad if he steals those. If he steals Goliath Flyer, I think it's impossible to get level 20 by the end of the run.
2B, Command is attempting to launch a satellite laser
It's pretty
strike on your
horrendous,
target.
but thankfully it doesn't happen too often,
Camouflage is making it impossible to aim. We need you to find
because
the
we are
emitter
just so
and
much
take it
stronger
out.
than him.
Oh, is that all? I know, but it's the only way.
EMP generator target confirmed. Marking on map. Proposal. Destroy the generator.
So yes, we have quite a bit of auto-scrolling here. This game has a bloody fantastic soundtrack, by the way. It's one of the most appealing aspects of playing it, let alone running it. In fact, if this auto-scroller didn't have such fantastic music, then I don't know if I'd even be running it. I'd have to have my own music on. Probably fall asleep a lot during this fight.
The unit unleashed a devastating electromagnetic wave attack. All resistance fighters in the vicinity were annihilated.
So basically, if this thing reaches land, we're screwed.
Affirmative.
Oh, if anyone from the Automata community is watching, you know what we should do? We should totally, like, do the bounty thing that we were talking about to find a grunt skip, and then, like, I don't know, speak about the bounty during the run. If this gets in, then that would be a good way to publicize it. Although I'm not sure if that would be allowed. But, yeah. We really want a grunt skip. Please, God, just give us a grunt skip. Alright.
Electromagnetic interference eliminated. Preparing for satellite laser strike.
So when we hit the ding after killing something, that's good because it means we definitely got the experience. And we leveled up from it, actually.
It's got an electromagnetic barrier over its whole body?
Having trouble over there?
So poor old Grun here
Hunter
just wants to chill out in the ocean.
12C Defense HQ.
People won't leave him alone.
4B. Don't worry, we'll take it from here.
2B, let's leave this area to the reinforcements. I have an idea. You and I should meet up at the spot I just marked. We've got mortars lining the shoreline here. All the EMP shielding in the world won't help against close-range mortar fire.
Got it.
Alright. Again, Platinum Games really excels at putting a bunch of different styles of gameplay into their games. So here we have something completely unique.
I'll help in.
It lasts for like 15 seconds, but it's another example of how awesome Platinum is.
Let's try for a more direct approach.
Direct? Oh, right.
That's right. Lay down some fire in its stupid mouth.
And that's that. He's done now, right? Gotta be dead. Oh, never mind. He is walking on 2 feet. Good.
That enormous machine is an ancient weapon. It was designed to help annihilate the androids, but it wound up going out of
He looks
control.
very much wounded.
I was part of the machine's network when it happened, so I remember it. The moment it reached land, it went berserk and began attacking everything in sight. No one could figure out how to stop it. We eventually marooned it deep in the ocean, but it seems to be searching for a way back. Huh.
Hey, 2B, I think I have another idea. You keep that thing right where it is, okay?
What?
Please, 2B, this is gonna work.
is leaving the front lines. Proposal: 9S should be reported to command as a deserter.
No! He has a plan. Just hold on.
I'm going to see if we can use those missiles back on the shore. But I need you to destroy the EMP unit on that thing's back. Otherwise, they're just going to go off course.
it becomes a lot more fun when you like challenge yourself to not take damage or like only kill the enemies with heavy attacks, something like that. I've been doing that a lot lately because I've been getting sick of him. Grinding runs out. So I never explain these core things. Especially if you don't kill them in time, they can give you pretty bad RNG. They rotate around to predetermined spots, but it is RNG, and you want them to go into good spots, so that you can kill all four as quickly as possible, and then kill the main one. Honestly, this boss was freaking amazing casually. My jaw was dropping the whole time I was playing this. But after doing it probably, I don't know, 70 to 100 times, you get kinda sick of it. Oh, it's not good. Sweet. So, that's grown probably a fair bit behind by now, but that's okay. It's all good practice. So another Mario Kart here, or in fact two in a row. Just gonna go into a specific point in this water. Great. And that's actually quicker than using our move tech to get over here. And then we'll be doing it again right here. It doesn't actually look quicker, but it is. Cool. So coming up is the most infamous skip in the entire run. It's copied city clip. You would have seen half doing this last year. And it is quite precise. It's not the most difficult trick in the game. For most people at least, probably factory is, because it's so complicated, but this is a very precise angle we need here for this clip. And I'm using an indicator with my feet, trying to line up with a vertical crease. Got it second try, which isn't bad. So if you get it first try, I think it saves like 20 to 25 seconds. Not actually that much for how difficult it is, but it's entirely necessary for top runs. Okay, now we're in the best area of the game, in my opinion.
What is this?
Analysis. This area is composed of crystallized silicon and carbon.
So one of the more recent skips is one that we call the robo-splaining skip.
The enemy must have placed them here deliberately.
It's a little complicated, hopefully I can explain it to you well. Or robo-splain it to you well. So we're gonna clip out here in this fight. Adam here has 3 phases total. Oh, please let me get out. He has 3 phases total. The first one is entirely dialogue. The second two are based on how quickly you can kill him. So in this one, normally you'd have to wait for all his dialogue to expire, and then phase continues. What we can do is come over here to this elevator after clipping out, open the doors, and there's a dialogue trigger inside. Normally if you come back here somehow, I don't know how they expect you to come back here. When you go inside the elevator, Pod will tell you, nah, go back. So this is what he says. And because he plays that dialogue, we can actually cancel the majority of Adam's dialogue, and it just advances the phase instantly. We do have to wait for a certain point because the dialogue's divided up into 3 chunks and it only skips 1 chunk. But yeah, it is the majority of the dialogue there. So that's robo-splaining. And now we continue trying to kill him as quickly as possible.
I don't have time for you.
Good. Once the dialogue starts again, like mini boss fights, you just sit back and relax. Okay. And the third and final phase. This one was very scary when I was first running because he does a lot of damage and he's very fast. Not so much with slow-mo. Whoops. There we go. And yes, he is really dead. For sure, this time. Rip Adam. And this game just gets way more intense towards the end game in terms of skips and stuff. So what I did there was quite a complicated dialogue cancel. Basically, spoke to the NPC, jumped at the same time, moved into another dialogue trigger, and it cancelled both of them out. Same as a lot of the other dialogue skips, but what that allowed me to do was access that shop right there, and I bought 6 skill salves, and those are used in the final fight. They're not super vital, but I do like having them there as a backup. They're usually useful, at least a little bit. We also checked our mail, which is required for the advancement of the main quest line. Okay, there was an SD cancel for height, the one that I talked about earlier.
No kidding.
Apparently, they're seeking to form an alliance of some kind with our village.
So this area we're heading to is the factory. If you've never played the game, this is the same area as Prologue. It'll look familiar shortly.
Indeed. Apparently, it's located in the abandoned factory. I can give you the coordinates if you'd like.
Please.
I was actually planning to go speak with them myself, you know. Maybe we can meet up over there?
Sounds good.
Target location data obtained. Marking on map.
The machines who seek to form an alliance with my village are hiding out here.
Okay, now there's a little trick here we can do.
Be careful. We machines can be rather unpredictable.
If you try to upskirt 2B, and I'm completely serious here, if you try to upskirt 2B, she kinda shoos the pod away. But you can get her locked into the state where she does it immediately, one after the other. Do a bit of a high five. And that's faster than the forced slow walk state that we were in. Just slightly, it is faster, but we need to save those frames. So, that's why we do it. It's the only reason. Now here we self-destruct as well for reasons. I should mention we also have Pascal behind us. Pascal, he is really annoying. He can sometimes mess up the outer bounds for us. Generally he is okay though. Just give him a bit of a slap sometimes.
If you ask me.
So why are you still here?
Well, I brought you this far, didn't I? It's my duty to see this through to the end.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I should start explaining this because this is definitely the most complicated sequence of skips in the run. So we start off in this big room. The first thing I'm doing is skipping a fight. That's its own thing, that's its own little skip. I'm gonna skip this fight by voiding out and despawning all the enemies, and then an elevator will open, which usually only happens once you kill a set number of enemies. After that, so this room's very high up in this general deep factory area, right? It's a very high up room. We're gonna go down, hit a mandatory trigger, and then do another void out so that we can enter the elevator and come back up from the lower room. And then once we get back up here, we're going to plunge down to a few other mandatory triggers, and then plunge to the end of the factory. This is like the control center of this skip. You always come back up here and go to another place from here. So we got the early elevator. Come on. Body blocking Pascal. Okay, this is the low room, and here is the trigger that we hit. And then we do a bit of fancy move tech here. Clip out, or not. Clip out of bounds, void out. We get put in back in bounds, and the elevator is open for use again. If I didn't do that void out, it wouldn't have opened for me at all. So now we're on our way back up. We do get to sprint here because we could charge up the sprint in the elevator, so technically it is quicker. And then quite a difficult clip, got it first try, nice. And arguably the most difficult bit of it. Great. So I timed the void out specifically so that I could fall and hit a trigger, and then void out right after I hit the trigger. And that was when he said the elevator's open. That was the trigger that I was hitting. And then we're heading towards the end of the factory here.
Exit route secured.
And that's it. That whole time we were just breaking the game. But it's definitely not easy. Time for a boss fight. We can sit back and chill in this part. And we actually do, we're just hanging out up here.
Alert. Energy shield detected over enemy unit. Physical defense shield detected. Analysis. Both long and close range attacks are ineffective.
So this boss is invulnerable until a certain amount of time has passed.
Energy source should be destroyed.
It's not even based on the dialogue, it's just, you just have to wait a while.
I got it. I've been keeping an eye on you.
NieR is actually back at the bunker, hacking into the factory, because he's the elite hacker man,
Hang in there, 2B.
and
90%.
once he's successful, the shield will drop down and then we can kill this boss.
98.
We're going to try to go for a 0 cycle here, which is very difficult actually. And I don't think it's even possible without crit chips and getting lucky with crits. So let's see how we go.
2B, I just shut down the electrical grid.
Enemy shield deactivated.
Please crits. There's 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay. I didn't get it, but he was lucky with the attack that he did give me. The single attack that he got off was just like a backwards dash. Alright. Good enough. So again, we can sprint through here because we get to charge it up in the elevator. Now we're going at max speed. Right, and you may remember this out of bounds from the start. It's a little bit different because we have to avoid auto-locking onto the enemies there by jumping up into the air. But that's the end of the factory. Okay. So we're coming up to the end game boss rush here. A lot of intense combat.
No thanks.
Some boss quick cycles that we're going for. Especially on the final boss. It's quite intense.
I'll probably wander back to the village. I have plenty on my plate there.
I see.
Okay.
Say again?
So as we're being filled in here, all the machines in the city ruins have gone crazy.
Let's move.
And there are a lot of enemies around, which we don't really need to care about. We just try and avoid them.
Why are their numbers increasing like this?
Cause unknown.
Try contacting the bunker via laser relay system.
So they go into resistance camp to help them out. Don't really know what's going on here yet. Oh no, this does not look good. Right, so in that cutscene it actually shows the machines are eating people. Which I'm sure you'd agree is a very strange behavior for a machine. So we're gonna investigate by killing them all. We try not to get body blocked by the death animations here, but sometimes it can't be helped. Just kind of mowing through the crowds here. And then we have Big Boy. Good, he's dead. Alright. So I kind of count that as part of the boss rush, even though it's not technically a boss. But here's the first official boss of the boss rush. It's just like So-Shi, except it's Boku-Shi. Let's hope we don't die here. Many runs have been choked with deaths to this boss, because he does quite a bit of damage.
This is never going to end.
Hypothesis. The Goliath-class enemy screen has summoned the local machine life forms.
Hey, thanks for the good luck, Jacob.
Destroy.
Alright, I was actually supposed to self-destruct there from more experience, but doesn't matter. I really doubt I'm gonna get level 20 anyway.
I'm fine.
So this boss is a little finicky. We call him core number 1. He seems to have iframes that we haven't quite figured out yet. I actually got really lucky with that, he died pretty quickly. Sometimes you're sitting there attacking him for like 10 seconds and he just doesn't die. We don't know why. Alright. So, that up there is core number 2. Misbehaved very badly at SGDQ last year. Got stuck on the fence. The poor old half.
Our village is under...
Pascal? Come in, Pascal!
Shit.
Let's just hope that doesn't happen to us.
Damn it! They're here too!
Quickly take care of a few enemies.
The machines on the network have gone
Goodbye,
berserk.
goodbye.
Sealed off the entrance.
See you later.
They're trying to hold them off, but with these
Okay,
weapons,
and now we're gonna try for a new quick cycle on this
Let's take these
boss.
guys out first.
Using DDG plus slow-mo, the most advanced combat you can get. Should be fine here, looks good. dialogue cancel right after the boss dies by speaking to NieR. Actually saves a few seconds in the movement here. Alright. Please don't shock me. Okay. That went really well.
Looks like he's
But it also went really well in my PB, so...
I think all these transmissions are making the machines go haywire. We have to find Eve and destroy him.
Cool, so this is Eve. He is very mad that we killed his brother, even though Adam was asking us to kill him. Pretty much. He wanted to feel the thrill of being close to death. Since as a machine they don't usually feel that. Alright, so... if everything goes smoothly here... that'd be nice. No? Okay, so he got 2 attacks off. Now we're going to be trying to skip this phase 2 transition here, which is really, really tight. Crits help a lot, level 20 helps a lot. We don't have level 20, but we might still be fine. My buffs are about to run out too. Okay, we're fine. Ooh, okay, yep. Easy peasy. Accidentally released the laser there. Cool. So actually what you're supposed to do though is get him down to low health again after he regenerates, and then NieR will hack into him, but for some reason if you don't let him regenerate fully, NieR just instantly hacks. Okay, we're gonna be beating the crap out of Eve. Taking the fight to him. Almost died. Okay. And he should be done in just a moment. There we go. So that's phase 3 done. And now in phase 4 we are very limited in what we can do.
Close range combat no longer operable.
So we're buffing up here, mashing recoveries. If you're not mashing recoveries, he could technically kill you if he wanted to, just by moving on top of you and throwing bullets at your face. He is giving very good RNG here, not moving around very much. Good job. Okay. Time's in about 25 seconds. Well, that was the final boss. It's all over.
It's okay.
Everything's gone to hell.
But you'll lose you. The you that exists at this very moment.
It was lip syncing.
But we can't upload this corrupted data to the bunker. So...
NieR.
And time. So that's NieR Automata, the A ending run. I hope you enjoyed it. It's definitely evolved quite a bit from since half coordinated ran it. So I hope you'll accept this fabulous run into the marathon. And thank you for watching.